So, I want to tell you about the day I almost got arrested in Miami while trying to do a good deed. I had volunteered to drive my future husband's uncle to a medical procedure about an hour and a half away. My schedule was flexible. I wanted to help. And honestly, it just seemed like the right thing to do. By the end of that day, I had been in a car accident, received a call telling me I had to return immediately or face charges for leaving the scene, sat completely stuck in Miami traffic, convinced I was going to jail, and I was in the car with someone who just had a medical procedure and a very human moment. Both. That was my first real glimpse into what caregiving actually looks like. Not the version we imagine, the real version. Just a quick note before we get started. The Midlife Squeeze is for educational purposes only. Nothing you hear here is personalized financial advice and may not apply to your specific situation. If you have questions about your own situation, please work with a qualified financial or legal professional. Now, let's get into it. Welcome to the Midlife Squeeze. I'm Erica. I'm a financial planner and I'm also a wife and a mom. So I'm living this stage of life too. This podcast is for people who are holding a lot at once. Kids, work, marriage, finances, and parents are starting to need more. And this isn't just a small group. It's most families. Within the next decade, adults 65 and older are projected to outnumber children under 18 for the first time in U.S. history. That's the world we're already walking into. Because what I've seen both personally and professionally is that most families don't run into problems because of bad decisions. It's because no one ever really had a plan to begin with. And by the time those conversations happen, they're already in the middle of it. So this podcast is about what that actually looks like in real life. The hard moments, the unexpected ones, and the financial impact underneath all of it. Because those are the conversations most families don't have until they have to. So let me go back to that day in Miami. I was in my early 30s, recently engaged, working for myself, and honestly, really happy. My husband, my fiance at the time, had a demanding job with almost no flexibility. He was the primary caretaker for his mom and his uncle, who lived together, and they still do, and both needed more and more help over time. He asked me more than once, "Are you sure you really want to do this?" And I remember thinking, yeah, I've got this. So I picked up his uncle around 7 in the morning, and he actually drove on the way down. And honestly, it was terrifying. Slow reaction time, trouble braking. I even got a little car sick. And I remember thinking, he's the one doing most of the driving for them. He gets the groceries. He runs to the pharmacy. He helps keep everything moving. And for the first time, I started thinking, what happens if he can't do that anymore? Because at the same time, we were planning a wedding, we were talking about starting a family, and suddenly I found myself wondering, how would we juggle all of this? What does the future even look like? Does he stay home? Does he need more help? Does he have to move somewhere? And if he does, who decides that? But we made it. And I thought, okay, this is manageable. Then everything changed. I went to go get the car from valet, had to make a U-turn on a small ramp, and I had just pulled out a little bit too far, and a car came just speeding up, hit the front of the car, and just kept going. And the driver jumped out and said in Spanish, "This is going to be a good one. This woman probably has money." What he didn't know was that I'm Hispanic and fully bilingual. And the irony of that is that the whole way down, I had been worried about uncles driving. And I'm the one who ends up in an accident in their brand new car. We finally got back on the road and then traffic stopped completely. And that's when I got the call. Ma'am, if you don't return immediately, you will be charged with leaving the scene of an accident. I'm a rule follower. I've never dealt with anything worse than a speeding ticket. And I was convinced I was about to be arrested. At the same time, the pain meds were wearing off. He was hungry. He needed to use the restroom. And we were just completely stuck in traffic. And then, yes, it happened. Both. And I remember sitting there thinking, I might be getting arrested, but I also have a much more immediate problem right now. And that contrast, that is caregiving. I eventually made it back to the hospital and someone handed me a ticket and told me I could go. The whole interaction lasted maybe 30 seconds. And the first person I had spoken to earlier, not even police, hospital security. And that moment didn't just stay in that day, because I had started noticing it everywhere in my own family. My mom carries most of the responsibility for my grandmother. And even when one person is doing most of the work, it doesn't stay contained. It affects everyone else. It changes how families operate, how decisions get made, how time gets spent. And as a financial planner, this is the part that doesn't always get talked about. It's not just the big moments or the big expenses. It's the quiet accumulation, the missed work, the reduced hours, the family member who slowly became the default, and what that costs them in ways that don't show up on a spreadsheet. And most families don't plan for it, not because they don't care, but because they don't even realize what they're walking into. And that's why I started this, because I'm one person and I can only help so many families one at a time. But this is happening everywhere. We're having children later, our parents are older, and more families are being pulled in both directions at once. It's a perfect storm for what I call the midlife squeeze. And that's really where FAMO came from, the family money plan. Not because families need another tool, but because I kept seeing the same gaps over and over again. Conversations that never happened, roles that were never clear, and financial realities no one had really looked at yet. It felt less like something I built and more like something that had to exist. So that's what this podcast is about. Real stories, real people, the hard moments, the unexpected ones, and the financial reality underneath all of it. Because that part matters too much to ignore. And if you're listening and thinking, my family and I haven't really talked about anything like this yet, you're not behind. That's exactly where we start. So thanks for being here. This is the Midlife Squeeze.